guys, my name is Anna and welcome back to my digital art channel. I am so excited to have you here with me. Today we're going to be drawing an eye together and it's going to be fantastic and we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you follow along until the end, you will also have a beautiful painting of an eye that is actually going to be very unique to you, because the way we're going to be painting an iris is actually different from how most artists do it. It's going to be very exciting, very new, very fun, and you will be able to make it your own. There are a few more process videos that are already created on Procreate, but if you are using any other digital painting software, you can also follow along. There's no reason for you not to. It's very simple, it's super fun, and I know you will have a blast. Also, if you want a PSD file of this artwork that we're about to create so you can look at it more and just turn on and off layers and look at everything in detail, you can get access to that in my Patreon. So if you become my supporter, you get a PSD file of that and also many other files and digital art lessons. So check it out at patreon.com/yourartpath and check out the lessons that you get access to at learn.yourartpath.com. And now just grab your pen and tablet, whichever one it may be, and let's dive right in and get started. Shall we? Let's go. So I will try recording as I talk and not add a voiceover after that, because I feel like if I'm recording while I'm talking, we will be able to actually share the thoughts together and I'll be able to tell you exactly what I'm thinking at one moment or the other. So let's get started. First, let's create a new canvas right here. So I think I'm gonna go with 8.5 by 11 size, just so we have a little bit more layers. It is 350 DPI. I do that so sometimes I can increase the drawing a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to rotate it like that. So now that we have our canvas, this is the reference photo that I found. Just going to show you very quickly. It's very beautiful. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description where I got it from. I got it from unsplash.com and it's a royalty-free photograph, so we're able to use it and then even sell the drawings we make with this photograph, which is so awesome. And so I decided to use this one as our reference for today. So to get started, I think it's important to not work on white canvas because it will be very distracting. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert this photo inside here. I'm just going to make it a pretty small size. I just wanted to use it as a reference for the colors. These are the brushes from my Procreate course, and I usually use the old brush for everything that I do. It's just my favorite brush, so I think I'll be using this brush today as well, and I will leave a link down below where you can get it from for free. For those people who watch this video, you'll be able to get this brush as well. So what I want to start with is a base color. I'm just going to select some color that I think would be good as a base. We're not selecting anything really dark or anything really bright. We're going to select something neutral. Okay, so we can just kind of draw it here. Or what I want to do is I want to create it on a new layer because we don't want to work with the same layer as this reference. And actually, I think I'm going to make it a little brighter and a little more red. Right about here, because we're not going for 100% perfect realism, but we're doing something similar to what the reference photo is, but we're still adding our own charm. Or let's just drop it. There you go. So now the important thing is to get the shape right. Let's get it right by starting with a simple circle, which we can see here. This would be our circle. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Just going to draw a circle. I'll do bigger brush. Not that big. Okay. Draw a circle, hold it, and then press once with your finger, and then you have yourself a perfect circle. So as you can see, when I let go, it looks more like an oval. So here we have our circle that will be approximately the size of the eye. Let's see if we can fill it. There is this small line that isn't filled, so all we have to do is not let go but hold, and then change the threshold. That's a little bit better. Still have a little bit of a thing here. Let's color it up. For the eraser, I will use the same brush. So here, it doesn't have to be perfect, but there we have our eye. I'm just going to rename this layer as iris. Now lower the opacity a little bit, just so we can see what else we're drawing. As you can see, the eye is being covered on top here and on the bottom here. So that's what we're going to use. And usually if you look at eyes, you look at 3 kind of lines. This is the first line, then we have the second line, and then we have the third line. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And then the bottom is usually kind of like this one half a circle, and then another part here. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. If we look at the iris, there's about this much space still on this side, and about here on this side. So what I'm looking at is this line. If we had a center, how far away would that be? If this was a center, then that would be approximately where this line starts. It's a good idea to rotate, especially if you know the points. So we kind of need to connect this and this while also touching this part. Okay, that works for now. And then this line is pretty smooth here. Just a little kind of like corner of the eye. And then we have these 3 lines that we talked about. So if we continue this line here, and now where do we cut it? Approximately, I'd say about here. So we would have this line here. This line goes down, and this line goes down. So, and don't feel like it has to be perfect. Again, this is just a study. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. So this is the part that a lot of people forget about. It's this one. And it's so crucial, that what makes our eye the way it is. So we have this part here, and then there's this little. When you feel kind of good about the shape, that's when we can continue on to the next shape. If we follow this with our eye, we can kind of tell that it's about right where we put it. So I always try to follow my drawing like a shape, 3-dimensional shape, and this way as well. And that's how you know you kind of got it right or not, if it feels right or not. Okay, the next shape is very similar. We're just going to start it here. We're looking at this shape. Looking at this shape right here. Same as here. It's not too thick, but it is there. And that's what's gonna make the eye so cool at the end. This part makes it look more 3-dimensional for sure. And again, it's often being forgotten in actual eye drawings. So usually when I draw the eye, I would just kind of sketch out a quick eye and then go for this, and then, okay, here we have this thingy. Here we have this thingy. And that's kind of how I would work. I wouldn't think too much about all of them, right? And then we have the eyelashes. These eyelashes, obviously, this is not how you draw eyelashes, but basically what I'm trying to show is that this one goes this way, this one goes here. Then they kind of have like a straight, maybe one straight one, because then they turn towards the other side. Right? So they don't go like only one way. They kind of spread out like this. Okay, now that you've created this line, and if your sketches are not as messy as mine, that is awesome. I just have a lot of messy lines and I'm totally fine with it. Okay, so then the second part, as we can see right about where our eye ends. So this was our eye. I'd say it's a little bit higher than where our eye ends, and this side is thicker than this side in this case. And then again, it follows the same idea. We have one line, second line, and then third line. Okay, so we have a bit thicker, a bit higher up than our iris. And then we have our one line, second line. This one line goes pretty far if we look, just to about here. About here, and then we have this sort of something like that. Now, another important part is that as we have this part here, okay, we also have the same one on the top eye, and sometimes it's not visible, but in this case, you can kind of see it. Just goes like this. So that's what we're going to try to replicate. You can see how it is thicker and in the middle, and then thinner towards the ends. And this is not really a part of it anymore, but it just kind of flows beautifully together, so I'm just going to continue. And then of course we have our eye bags, especially me because I don't sleep much. So we're going to indicate a little bit of them here. We have she has some wrinkles here. That would be here. Right? But that's like not necessary in this particular picture. Okay, and then the last part that I wanted to mention is that this right here, this is just skin that is folding on top of the eye. So we can't just forget about it. It's very important actually, because to give this a very three-dimensional look, we have to remember about the skin, but that you can do with colors. So I'm just going to select them and move them down a little bit. So hooray, now you have your sketch. We're gonna get to the eyelashes later. You have your iris and your eye structure, and once you have all of this, I feel like it's about time to start actually coloring it in. Let's start with some basic colors. So I'm going to actually keep this separately, and this one I will turn to overlay and change the opacity because we don't actually need it. And now on a new layer, let's draw the eye. So the eye will not actually be super white. If we select the eye color here, it is very close to white, but it's not really there. And I'll actually push it a little bit down as well, so we can then emphasize the highlight. So now you can just color it in if you wanted to, or you can use the selection. And then I like to go over it with my brush, because it shouldn't, I don't really like the hard edges if they're not precise. If they're precise, I love them. But in this case, they were not precise. So we have this part of the eye, and it's obviously on the inside. These two other parts are on the outside, so we're actually going to create a separate layer for them on top of this layer. And we need a color, so let's pick a color as well. There you go, that'll work for now. And now let's just cover them in. And let's do one more for the bottom. We'll just make it more pink, but still pretty desaturated. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see the final file for this artwork, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. You'll get access to this file, many other files, and also a library of video lessons where I teach how to do digital art. So check it out at patreon.com/yourartpath or go to learn.yourartpath.com to see what kind of lessons you can get there. So now we can take the iris and bring it underneath behind the top layers. Now it is covered, and we can also click Alpha Lock, and that will allow us to work with the iris without actually going off on the sides. So whatever I paint will be inside of this iris. At this point, many people would just turn off the sketch layer, but I actually love keeping them here and maybe incorporating them in the final artwork, so I'll just keep it for now. We're going to do the same with all the other layers. We're going to alpha lock them. And now the process will speed up a little bit. So let's find a color for this iris. I can do so by selecting a color from the reference image and then maybe adjusting and making it look better. So let's start with a blue color. Don't forget to change your opacity. And now that the opacity is full, we can see some of the mistakes that we have. So I'm going to un-alpha lock and fix some mistakes. There you go. This way it doesn't look as sharp or weird as it did before. Now that we have our blue iris, it's very saturated. Let's go with that. We can start to look for other things within here that might be very interesting. We're not going to go for every single detail, obviously, but let's just try to recreate something that looks as awesome. Let's maybe start and add the black. So I think it's about here. Again, if it's not perfect, it's totally okay, guys. We're not trying to copy the photograph exactly. So I want to try something new. How about we create a new layer and just start adding the colors that we see here. So I'm just going to add a few blacks, a few saturated blues, darker but saturated blues. And then on this side, it's something like greenish orange. And then it gets more desaturated and darker. It's okay that you're coming outside of the lines. You will see what I mean in a second. As you can see, there's only one thing I didn't add, and that is the reflection right here. We're going to work on that a little bit later. I'm going to duplicate this layer just in case this doesn't work out. I would like to have a backup. So let's go to the liquify tool and select crystals. Let's do this size and let's just press it a couple of times from the middle here. Let's see what it would look like if the distortion wasn't there, just the momentum. So let's press it. That's quite interesting. Let's do one more. Let's try edge. Smaller size. I think that makes such an interesting effect. You can really get creative with what the eyes look like. That was before, and then that was after. The same with this one. It just kind of locks on. We could also do something different. We could go to liquify and twirl it. I'm just gonna show you. See, like that. You can just totally twirl stuff and just mix the colors that you want together. I think that's really pretty. And of course, we're going to hit clipping mask. I'm just gonna bring it down a bit. Screen looks really pretty. Or even color dodge. So basically here we have this crazy looking iris. And that's if you really want to focus on the eyes. For this piece, it would kind of work, right? And then of course that wouldn't be the end. We would create a new layer on top and use our brush that we already know and love. And we're going to also have clipping mask onto the iris. And now all we have to do is just maybe select overlay and have our dark blue color, and then just fix some things around. So we have the darker edges. This one's more green, if you think about it. So we could add that. Even more yellowish. And this one's less saturated blue. Somewhere here. Then I would create a new layer on top and go in closer. And let's add this highlight. Selection tool. Let's select this shape that we see. And I'll take pure white, fill it up. Now I will smudge. Actually, I will use the same old brush for smudging. There you go. So I'll smudge this part. And then I will clipping mask it, and I want to add that blue color. Sorry, I meant alpha lock it. I'm just gonna add this blue color here. And then smudge it again. Then we can add these little shapes.
And I can see one over here, and it kind of looks like this shape to me. So I'll just add that very lightly. Perfect. Now I think I want to go to the iris and un-alpha lock it so that I could blend it in a little bit more with the color below. So that would look something like this. Otherwise it just doesn't look real. And this looks more realistic. So since we're here, let's look at the eye, the inside of the eye. On this layer, all we have to do is take the old brush and now think about what colors are kind of in there. So this part is way darker. I see some kind of dark brown and some desaturated yellows even, but mostly there's just very dark brown, almost towards black, and lighter brown. So we're just gonna start with the lighter brown. It will be right here. And maybe more like this. And a dark brown about this. Then on this little part, it kind of looks pink to me, but more like purple here, okay? So you have something purplish. And of course, it's probably somewhere here as well. So we're just gonna do that. Less saturated. And here we have some kind of specular highlight. Maybe like so. Gonna paint it in blue. And then I'm gonna come in with a desaturated white that's not completely white, so that it still has a little bit of blue on the sides. It doesn't look really good though, so I'm gonna have to pick some purple-ish as well. Some pinks, and maybe something closer to white. And then this one has to go darker and maybe more red when we defined this part. Just be gentle with it. Press very lightly so that you're able to control this eye. And of course, let's smudge it a little bit. And this side is pretty much done for now. I would also actually go over, we're gonna do that later, no bother. Okay, and then now this side, even though it looks like one color, it's actually not. We can see a little bit of a pink hint on this side and it's very blurry. And then on this side, it's more bluish. So if we start here, we can see that it's more towards blue. And then if we go towards this side, we can see it's a little bit more of like purplish pink. So we're gonna use that knowledge to add some tonality to our whites. It's not much, I know, but every little bit counts. And you can, of course, make it look more apparent if you want. It is your artwork. You can do what you wish. And usually this part right here is a little bit brighter than the rest, so I just added a little bit more white there. So it kind of looks weird on this side because we don't have the rest of the information filled in, and also because this part of the iris is way brighter than on the actual reference. So I'm going to go on top and I'm going to select this color and then make it even more dark. And I'll just go over here and kind of add my own color on top of everything that we've already done. I'm not trying to be careful or precious with it because then I can go with the smudge tool and everything will be better. And then with eraser, so we don't have anything that we don't want in here. And I think that already looks better. And since we're there, let's just fill this information as well. This part makes me want to go a little bit brighter and less saturated. Let's see if that's going to be a good choice. I think so, so I'm just going to keep this here as well. There you go, that looks more like it now, huh? This part should be a bit darker. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to be going back and forth in between the things that we're doing, but we have to continue progressing because it's been a while now that you've been watching. If you're still watching, amazing. I hope you're following along. So now let's talk about this top part right here. I want to start with that. Let's see. So this is our, okay. I'm going to change the opacity to be a bit less. And now let's go to this top layer and start seeing what we can do to bring it together.
Hey, quick break. It is time for you to stretch out. You've been working so hard. I hope you're having a blast. If you're still here and watching this, that means you're ahead of the curve. You are gonna do so amazing because you're gonna actually have a beautiful painting of an eye by the end of this entire video, and that is just so cool. So yeah, just a quick break to tell you to stretch out a little bit, move your head, move your muscles, and also if you enjoy this lesson, please leave a like, hit the notification bell button, and subscribe to my channel for more content. It really does mean a lot to me. If you don't want to do any of that, that's totally fine, but just leave a comment down below and let me know what's your favorite color, you know? Any engagement helps my channel. We're still very small, so thank you all so much for your support. It means so much to me, and I'm so happy to be creating every day for all of you out there. And thank you so much to my Patreon supporters who make my creative journey possible. Thank you guys, and now let's get back to the painting. Let's go.
So we can see this huge dark piece of information. That's because the light is falling so under the skin. So we're gonna go about here for the color, and let's see if that's going to work for us. Yeah, that's about right. So we're just I'm gonna make sure to cover this important part. And we could go over the top here, but we can see it's more like orangey there, so we can even go something bright like that. We're gonna smudge it a bit later, so it's not gonna be like this all the time. Do not worry, and I'm gonna add some orange here as well. Okay, where is that coming from? Okay, so I'm going to merge down these two. Here you go. It's gonna be better. It's gonna be easier to draw these. Okay, so we have this bright orange. I want it to be here and here. There you go. Now the dark covers this whole part. Here we have something like desaturated purple. Something like this, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty close. It's not going to be very apparent at the end, but it is there. So we should just add these colors in as we see them. And then we go to a more desaturated color. I went towards pink. I feel like there's some bluish going on here, so we're just gonna add some blue as well. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And now we have this color. I really want to get it right, so we're just gonna select it. Let's see. A little bit more saturated, a little bit brighter, because there are different variations, right? And I'm going to go ahead and I'll just tap it in this time because I don't want it to be perfect, and skin does have some bumps and some reflections and some textures, so I just want to bump this one in. Just lightly press and see what's gonna happen. Not everything has to be really smooth, you know? And that's why I like the old brush, because it has a texture of its own. Then we need something a little bit brighter here. That's nice. And I'm going to go and use that bright color underneath, so that when we actually do the eyelashes, it's visible that underneath the eyelashes we have this part here. Perfect. I even spot some purples, or like more like pinks actually. That about works, so we're just gonna add some pinks here as well. I really like adding some very saturated colors in different spots of the work, just to make it more interesting. Just gonna do it in a few places. And this one is kind of more orange at this point, so this part. But this part here is darker, so if we go to this brown that we have, but we go towards more red and a little bit less dark, I feel like that's about what we have here. And this color was created, so we can use it other places too. So here we have this little spot of no color, so we're gonna take away the alpha lock and add the color that's missing, the parts that are missing. Doesn't really matter what color you can use whatever color you want, because at the end of the day you can still edit it, but we're just missing those pixels. There you go, I'm gonna lock it again and then change the color. Perfect. There's something darker here, but that's about it. So I'm gonna take this color but brighter and splatter a few on here. We have some light shining from this side. And since we're at this point, I would just create something below everything we've created, just so it doesn't look that weird as it does right now. And we can add in some color here. We have some oranges over here. Some purples. Pinks and purples over here. Some more of this color here. Just gonna smudge them together more. On Alpha Lock It, as I said before, we would do that because we don't want it to be so sharp. It's not that sharp in the reference image, so we want to not copy the reference image, but be pretty close to it. Like this part is more sharp, but it still doesn't mean that we can't smudge a little bit. Put it in Alpha Lock again. And I'm going to create a new layer. This one will be color burn. And we're gonna burn some color. So I'm gonna use some orange. I wanna see what that will look like. Maybe we will do... I'm looking for this kind of orangey glow here. And then we're looking for some pink, some purple. I'm still not happy with that orange though, so I'm just gonna go like this. That's a bit better. Then on this normal layer that we have, I want to adjust this a bit. Just make a few adjustments here and there, so not everything feels so sharp, because that's what we don't want. And then maybe even add a little bit here. And finally, let's just add some of this color. That would be about it. And then smudge it a bit. Maybe even more dark. So as you can see, I just press lightly until it shows me some kind of color, and then I use that color to add the darks. Because I don't want this exact dark color, but rather a mix of two. So that kind of works. This will reflect here. So we're going to add that in. The reflection. And a little bit of shadows. What we also can do is, if you notice the black iris, it's not really a perfect circle, so we can actually take the smudge tool, make it a pretty small size, and just do this. It's just a little bit of a difference, but in my opinion, it is worth to do. Now let's talk about eyelashes. So the eyelashes, we could take the chunks of hair. There's also the little patches of hair. So basically we start the eyelash from here, then it goes about here. So I'm going to use the little patches of hair to do that. So we have this region where the eyelashes start from, and they go here, up, up here and then down here. So that's kind of our trajectory, okay? We do not do this. That is just not gonna work. They're not drawn one after one after one. They're usually somehow connected in these kind of groups of hairs. You can see these groups. There's one here, one group here, one group here. It's not just one, 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 one. So that's what we're trying to replicate. And they're also going one in front of the other, and they're not just going in the same angle and direction. So we just did the top ones, the top eyelashes. And now, as you can see, they're kind of blurred out at the top here in this reference photo. So whether you want to do that or not, it is up to you. But what I would do is I would duplicate it. And then this part would be Gaussian blur, and I'd blur it. And as you can see, that's how it's blurred. So now I'm going to duplicate this layer just in case, but basically what we want is we want to say, okay, in this part, we don't really have that many blurred. So let's just delete some of them. Like here, shouldn't be blurred at all. At the bottom, it's a bit blurred, but that's about it. Here as well. Where else do we don't want it blurred? That's about it. Literally, this part is kind of like, you can still see the eyelashes perfectly, and then in the rest, you can't really. So instead, we're gonna take these eyelashes and just erase these ones. No, this one you can tell. Okay, so yeah, that's about how it is. So now, instead of just this, we have these. So it is up to you which one you like more, which one you dislike, but that's how I would kind of do it if I wanted to follow this example. And now let's do the bottom eyelashes. The bottom eyelashes, I will use the chunks of hair to do the bottom eyelashes. It's going to be very subtle, and again, we have this certain angle we're going for, in certain direction. So just watch at what's happening and where they're starting. They're starting here, not here. We're not going like this. They don't grow in from inside of the eye, okay? They start growing from about here. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so here we have the bottom eyelashes. They're insanely big and beautiful. Of course, I didn't even draw each one of them, but we're not a printer or photocopier or whatever. We are artists and we decide where we want to put the eyelashes. So now that these ones are done, I would just do the same thing. I would duplicate it and then I would go to Gaussian blur and I would blur that. I'd like it about here. And then I'd see, because the blur is really just at this end part and maybe some ends here. So we don't really need the blur over here. And we don't need these here. Let's try this again. Of course, you can also use masks to decide whether or not, so you can always go back if you make a mistake or something, right? And I just kind of go for it, to be honest. Okay, so that's kind of how the eye looks like at the moment. So let's just get rid of the reference photo. All right, so we're getting pretty close. I would like to make it darker here and just change some colors everywhere, but let's do the wrinkles, and I will actually use the little patches of hair for the wrinkles, or the chunks of hair. Maybe the chunks of hair. Yes, I will use the chunks of hair for the wrinkles. I'm going to make them a little bit darker here. I don't want a lot of wrinkles, of course. Let me just group these. What a difference does that make, huh? Okay, yeah, let's do... I think that should do it. We don't want a lot, and we also want to smudge the ends. They kind of merge into the painting, so the ends are very smudgy and soft. I think that's what helps wrinkles not really stand out that much, but they're still there. So now I'm thinking the size kind of doesn't work, so let's change the size a little bit of the canvas. All right, that's better. Right, let's create a new layer and work on refining everything we've just done, because it's almost finished, but it's not quite there. So I'm just going to select some of this color and just kind of see if I can do anything here to make it look better. Let's just go back to our old brush. No, that's not that good. Okay. First of all, let's change it to color and play a little bit with the colors of things. I want this to be more like a yellowish. If I make it that yellow, I will probably add some yellow here. I don't know if I like how yellow that is, so maybe... Okay. Then we have this part and this part. Then this part is more purple. Now let's just go around and find some colors that we've been missing that we want to add to our piece. So I'm sort of happy with the colors. But now I'm not too happy with some of the values here, so I'm just going to select overlay and see if I can adjust some of it to fit more of my expectations. Maybe I'll actually change it to multiply. There you go, that's better. So we're just gonna see what I want darker and change that first. So usually this part is a bit darker. And just like that. And now the second, the opposite of it, of course, is making something lighter. So now I'm just going to select overlay. And then make certain parts brighter that I think deserve to be brighter. Be careful what color you choose because it also affects, the color you choose also affects how everything else looks. Okay, now I want to add some more highlights. By the way, that's how it looks before and after. We just add some overlay. I definitely think that's a huge improvement. So now we are going to add a few more highlights. And I'm going with pure white and this old brush. And I just want to add the purest highlights of them all. This one was supposed to be pure white anyway. So here is one that I want to add. It's right here. And I'll smudge it on the sides. Let's see if that works. Yes, that works, except maybe we can break it down with a few very small lines with the eraser tool, like 1%, because we do have the eyelashes here, right? So we're just gonna break it down. Then we are going to add the same one here at the bottom. It starts from about here. So here we're gonna merge it, smudge it a little bit. Here as well. And I actually sometimes like adding things like this. I think it works. Okay. So we have our before and after. That adds a lot of life to the drawing. I'm gonna add one here as well. Just gonna smudge it though. It's not really on the work, but on the photograph. But with time, you learn that it's a good idea to have something like this on the eye after doing many, many studies. And I actually think it would be a good idea to add it here as well, but not as prominent. Then we can add some highlights that I'm not going to be very sure about actually. So I'm just going to add them and then we will see if it works. So I'm just adding these and then smudging them a little bit because I don't want them to seem like that repetitive or something. Yeah, I think they don't hurt. Maybe this hurts a little bit. So I'm just going to erase some of it. Just turned out pretty interesting, I think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you've done it and where I can see it, because I would love to see, if you followed along this tutorial, what yours turned out like, because 100% is not going to be exactly like mine. It's not a very like draw this circle exact and this square exact. That's not the type of drawing that is fun. The type of drawing that is very fun is where you get to splash some color, experiment, change color around, add some purples and pinks and oranges and greens where maybe they don't belong. And that's what makes art so fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this kind of lesson, I guess, and that you had as much fun as I did creating it. Thanks again for all of your support. Please hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell button. It really does help out my channel a lot, and thank you so much for watching.
If you feel like drawing more today or just watching more of my videos, there's a bunch that you can choose from. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!